náttúrunni til þín. Gott CBD einfaldlega betra.
Korkur í eldhúsið, korkur á baðherbergið, korkur í stofuna. Við elskum kork. Korkur, umhverfisvænn, hipp og kúl. Todd Torgrims stoltur styrktaraðili Þvottahússins.
So,
Yeah, I'll have it open here also.
Boff, do I say Konkerz?
Yeah, Konkerz is fine.
What kind of a name is that? Boff Konkerz.
It's a joke name. I mean,
Okay.
it is my real name,
Yeah.
but it's just a misspelling of Konkerz as in overcomes. You see?
Konkerz.
Like Konkerz.
Like
Okay.
conquer.
But I kind of like it because it's also like the game of Konkerz, which is an English thing you probably don't have.
No idea.
But it's kind of funny. And then I just decided to mess with the spelling as much as I can.
But Boff, what does it
Well,
stand
Boff is my real name.
for? Okay, that's your real name.
That was my real last name. And when I changed my name, I used it as my first name.
Uh-huh.
So my parents would be Mr. and Mrs. Boff.
Uh-huh.
But then, everybody called me Boff. All my
Uh-huh.
friends called me Boff.
Uh-huh.
And I kind of thought Boff was a kind of cool name.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
I decided to change my name to Boff.
It's pretty masculine.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds a bit like Buff.
Yeah.
You know.
Boff, but I don't think it's...
It's like
I don't think of it
it's a name for a guy who collects money.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I mean, it's not working. But
I'll call Boff.
are we recording yet?
Yeah, we are.
We are.
We
Okay.
started.
Yeah.
But welcome to Þvottahúsið.
Yes,
Thank you.
very
Thank
welcome.
you.
You're here like as a professional tattoo artist,
That's correct.
and from what I hear, you're highly skilled, and you specialize in like hand poking.
Hand poking
Tattoos.
is what I would call it. There are other names. In America, it gets called stick and poke quite a lot.
Is that the prison way of doing it?
Yeah, but it is... Well, no, actually, if you look into a lot of prison tattooing, they'll make machines. Right?
Yeah,
so
okay.
they actually... Like, I watched this a really good documentary about Russian prisons.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it kind of emphasizes tattooing quite a lot. And in that, it's called the Mark of Cain. You can see it on YouTube. It's
Mhm.
really, really
Yeah, okay.
depressing because Russian prisons aren't that
They're not so nice.
uplifting. And in that, the men do like machine work because they make the tattoo machines out of like razors, electric razors. And then
Yeah.
in the women's prison, they don't have electric razors, so they
Mhm.
do hand poke. So yeah,
Mhm.
it is something you could do in a very crude way in a prison or in a, something like that. Or just kids, when I talk about stick and poke,
Mhm.
that generally means
Mhm.
like amateurish. So we use things like hand poke is the most common one, or kind of machine-free tattooing is quite a good one.
Okay.
I've heard it called non-electric tattooing, and
But
It's
why
just-
why do you go? You must have started with machines and
no, that's a common misconception. What I did about 19 years ago, I was living in London, and I'd always been really into tattoos, right? I always loved tattoos, but I also really liked doing music. So at that point, I was just like playing in a punk band and stuff, which was great. I was working in a bar, playing in a punk band, and I met a couple of guys who could do this hand poke, and I got these little stars on my hands before there was anything else on the hand, done by hand by he was a machine tattooist who did hand poke as well. And at that time, nobody knew what hand poke was. He didn't even know. People would be like, I didn't know that existed. It's so crazy compared to today.
But was it just as advanced as it is today? The hand poking.
Yeah, the guys who did it, I knew a couple of they're really high-end tattooists, but they were doing really good, interesting hand poke.
Did it
was
come
good.
from like New Zealand, or did it like
Well, the
were
kind of
they doing it in Thailand or whatever? Did it?
there's a lot of different kinds of machine-free tattooing, and there'll be different ways of getting the ink in the skin. So when you think about New Zealand, you're talking like Polynesia, you're thinking more really about the Samoan way of doing it, which you might have seen where they have like a bent stick with a needle on, and they hit it with a hammer. That's right.
Yeah.
And they'll have a second guy stretching the skin, because the skin needs to be stretched for any tattooing. But if you've got two tools, you can't do it. So they'll have a guy stretching the skin and then the other guy hammering it in.
Have you tried it?
I've not tried doing it, but this along the edge of my hand was done by that technique here in Iceland, actually, at the convention by a tattooist called Brent McCowan, who specialises in that technique.
Okay.
Then you've got the kind of Thai version, which is closer to what I do. So they stretch the skin, but they use a very long stick. And they're really, if you look at the traditional Thai tattooing, it's more about the religion and the symbol and the Buddhism. It's a kind of that kind
Yeah,
of
I've
thing.
seen it. It's like
Yeah.
really religious style.
It's not so, for me, it looks great, but it's not a refined kind of aesthetic kind of tattooing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll see in Japan, they use a long stick, but they kind of hold it like that.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do, and what a lot of hand pokers, what I guess all the hand pokers in Iceland now do, is hold it like a pen, stretch with this hand.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a while to work this out, but the reason that Asians are using a long stick is because they don't use furniture. They're on the floor.
Yeah, of course.
Right? So to save your back,
yeah.
you've got to have a long stick, whether you're holding it in the Thai
Jesus.
style or this. Makes sense.
But you hold it like a pen, and
yeah,
it's
kind
pretty
of like a
rapidly. I've seen it on video. It's pretty rapid.
Yeah, I can get quite fast. Sometimes you might slow down if you're doing a more precise piece of line work. But if you're doing like a large area of dot shading, then yeah, you can get some speed.
But is it only like one needle, or can you choose from like in the machines? You can choose up to like, I don't know.
Well, it's
10,
never
15 or
it's
whatever.
Interestingly enough, it's never one needle for hand poke. They do sometimes use single needle in machines, but for hand poke, I've tried using single needle, and the ink doesn't adhere to the single needle. So you dip it in the ink pot, you go on the skin. There's no ink on the needle
Because the ink must stay
It's got
between
to-
the needles.
Yeah, exactly. So people use different things. I tend to use 3 needles. So when tattooists talk about a 3 or a 5 or a 9, they're not talking about the size of needle. They're talking about how many individual needles.
Yeah.
So I just tend to use 3 or 4 different needle groupings, because it's kind of a reductive approach to tattooing. So I don't want to use 20 different needles.
But you can do outlines with like 3 needles in hand poking.
Yeah, of course. They'd be very fine. And sometimes I do that, but I also do a lot of, if you look at my work, if you see it on Instagram and stuff, a lot of dot shading. That's I dot shade most of my pieces. So I use a smaller needle for that, and a bigger needle for the lines, and a bigger needle for if you're doing little areas of solid black.
What about color? Because normally when I see hand poke tattoos, they're all like only black and white.
Some people do try colour. I've done a few colour pieces, but the reason I don't like it, as you can probably tell by looking at me, is I'm not really into colour tattoos for myself. And also, it's a lot of work to get colour ink into the skin by hand. People can do it. Some people love to do it. But the consistency of the ink is different. So for me, there's an aesthetic reason, but also a technical reason. And if you're doing dot shading, if you use coloured dots, I feel the contrast isn't high enough between the skin tone and the actual dot for it to pop. You need a real good contrast. So I've done dot shading in colour. People like it, but it has a kind of, for me, a more of a washed out look than dots that are done in black ink. So I generally just use black
But
ink.
you never use machines yourself.
I have one, and I've used it for fun, just to see what it's like. I've used it on myself, and I've used it on a couple of people. I just I'm not really into it.
What's the difference? Why?
Well, I think it's simply, if you've been doing something a certain way for a long time, you get used to doing it that way.
What about time-wise? It doesn't take much longer to do
Much
it by
slower,
hand.
I've heard.
The
Less painful, though.
Yeah, the handwork is slower. Although if you're doing dot shading, I'd say you can shade, and compete with a machine doing dot shading. But for lines, of course, it's a lot slower. But that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
We don't have to be in a rush all the time.
No,
so
no.
it's quite good to just slow down and go the speed of the tattoo. And there's also, when you're using a machine, it's much more complex. Obviously, there's more that can go wrong. You're kind of manipulating an outside energy source, like you're using electricity, obviously. When you're working by hand, it's just you. It's just your energy going into the person rather than all this other stuff. You know what I mean? And I started doing it because, like I said, I was playing in a band. I really loved tattoos, but I didn't really see a way into tattooing. I found out that this existed. And I said to a guy I was sharing a house with in London at the time, I think I'd really like to learn how to hand poke. And he went, I'll show you now. And I was like, what? I'd just come in from my shift behind
It's
the bar.
not more complicated.
Yeah, and he's like, I'll show you. I was like, well, all right then. And he did. And back then, you used to solder your needles. So you wouldn't buy the needles pre-soldered and, use them. So it would loose needles that he showed me how to solder, and I made a tool. I tattooed him, and then I tattooed myself, and they weren't great.
With
but,
tattoo ink.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, he was...
And you dip it,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
poke it in.
Yeah, and the guy I did it on is an Australian guy called Lucky Diamond Rich, who is the most tattooed man in the world.
Which means how much in
like 500%. Like he is completely covered, but there are layers and layers and layers. He's undeniably the most tattooed person who ever existed, and it's not like I'm not leading you on here. If you look in the Guinness Book of Records, most tattooed man, it's Lucky Diamond Rich.
Layers and layers.
Yeah.
Is that possible?
When he had one bodysuit and it was all over his face, and then he had everything tattooed black, like my arm here, like everything.
Covers.
And then he started going over that again. I haven't seen him for years. He's back in Australia now. But he was the person who showed me, and I did my first tattoo on him, just randomly. I mean, nobody else has that.
How many tattoos did he have at that time?
Just
it's not
one, really.
It's just
Yeah,
one
okay.
tattoo.
yeah, like
It's
a
just-
mass. You know?
Yeah, he
but-
was
but-
completely covered.
Yeah,
at
yeah.
the
He was
time.
already the most tattooed man in the world. So
But
when
is it safe? Because
Yeah,
I've
he
heard.
he seems healthy.
But what about the skin? You know, can it like breathe normally or whatever?
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
It's not like that. That thing you might. There's like the James Bond movie where the woman is killed because they paint her gold. I assume with gold finger, and the skin can't breathe. That's a bit of a myth. And tattoos aren't on the skin anyway; they're in the skin, so the skin functions normally. I think there's an argument that getting tattooed regularly might, can't back this up with science, might actually be good for you because it's boosting your immune system every time in a small way. Do you know what I mean? So maybe it's not bad for you, it's good for you.
No.
Chances are it's neither bad nor good for you.
But
Okay.
but what about your body? You know, if we take your body now, before we go into the history of you know your thing, you know, how much of your body is
I mean,
covered?
as a percentage, I couldn't tell you because I don't really know how to work that out. But like really pretty much everywhere except my face and head and the soles of my feet. Like literally everywhere else.
What about your balls?
I need to finish the work on my balls.
Was that painful?
Yeah. What kind of question
Really?
is that?
Really?
No, I never felt it.
Have you started your like ball sack?
Of course I have.
What about between the penis,
But
between
I
the
can't
anus
reach
and the?
that. I'll get a friend to do that. I
Yeah,
seriously have a
hand
friend
pocket?
in Stockholm who's, can you do this for me? Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Interesting. And the penis as well.
Penis.
The penis is less, I mean, apart from the head, apart from the helmet, the penis is actually less painful than the scrotum.
Okay.
And you've done the penis as well.
Yeah, and I've done it on other people as well. You know, it's...
But what do you put on your penis and balls? What is,
Well,
if I may ask?
you go with something, you can join my OnlyFans and see
Yeah,
for yourself.
definitely.
No, you go with something that's going to fit like what you've got. So if you look at a picture of me, I mean, there are pictures in Instagram of me in the bath and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
you can kind of see what I've got going on.
So it's like the same
It's
style.
the same style, yeah. It's a lot of black work. Do you know what I mean? And people, it's strange because people sometimes think that's weird. And I'm like,
But-
it'd be more weird to be like completely tattooed
With
and
a
have
white
this
penis.
pink, like, you know, cock and balls just hanging there. It'd look like somebody else's cock and balls, right? So
Like it's attached or something.
yeah. So everything has to.
But
fit
if it's
together.
like covered up and completely black, doesn't it make it look a lot
it
smaller?
looks brilliant. It looks
Okay.
fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it looks.
That's all I need to
awesome.
hear.
Yeah,
Awesome. You should have that done.
yeah. I'll do that for you.
I didn't even think about it. I didn't even put it in the script, but it's typical you to
But-
like
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
this way, David.
But what about, you know, like the penis? I think about my penis. Sometimes it's this big,
How
sometimes
often?
this big, and this big. Do I need to be erect while you're doing it?
This is a
because
common
of the
question.
skin. Yeah.
No, you wouldn't be.
No, but I'm just
Because
thinking when it
although-
grows, does the tattoo like?
Well, that's
fill
why
it?
you go for. I mean, it's a very common thing. I'm not the only person walking around with it.
No.
Um,
But I haven't met anyone before, so
you
I
have. You
yeah,
might
probably have. I
you
didn't
know?
talk to him about it, so
You're going to go for something that works in that area. I mean, I did know a guy. I did see, and it was incredible. A tattooist I know is a fantastic tattooist, tattooing a geometric like design on somebody's scrotum, and I was like, how the fuck did you even stencil that? Like that's insane. But you're going to go for something simple. Do you know what I mean? It's all only a Google search away. I mean, not me, but if you search like tattoo genitals on Google, you're going to get loads of hits.
I'm gonna go for
Some of them
ideas.
look like a disaster. Maybe that's the aesthetic they're going for, like a bit of a car crash. But you keep it simple. You know, the best looking tattooed penises are the ones where they've kept it simple. I think. And I've tattooed a few like women's bits as well. You know, but that's easy because it's just.
You mean around
how far do
how
you
far
go?
can you go in?
You can go as far. I mean, I haven't done this, but you can go in as far as you can reach. You know.
Yeah.
And, you know, that applies for anything. You know?
Okay. But what's the plan with, you know, the sole of your feet?
Oh, I'm not doing that. It's like...
Why?
Because, I mean, I actually did book in, I'll talk about the head and the face as well. I was going to get something on the side of my face last year.
Okay.
I just thought, no. I really like the negative space. I like where my tattoos end. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It works.
It's like a void.
Well, it's part of it. You know, where you don't tattoo is as important as where you do tattoo. So I think of...
So you're going to leave it?
I'm going to leave the head and I'm going to leave the soles of the feet. And it kind of bookends it.
What
nicely.
about the, you know, these empty areas?
Well,
on your fingers?
there are. I mean, you know, the fingertips and stuff. There will be more work on the palm, but it's kind of just a work in progress. I mean, when you're into this kind of tattooing, this level of tattooing, especially this heavy black work, it's not I've got my tattoo and it's finished. You know, this part of my arm here is like 3 layers on it, and a brand as well that I also had done in Iceland, actually, by an English guy, but it was done in Iceland. It's an ongoing thing. You're always reworking it. It's not what people maybe think of as tattooing, which is like, I've got this, that's it, it's done. It's like, well, no, it's a constant growth and an evolution through it. And that way, as somebody who's doing tattoos, you're keeping the energy coming in as you're giving it out. You know, you're not, I don't like, and when I say this, it could be seen as a criticism of some tattooists that I know personally, or I like as people. But for me, I don't like the idea of tattooists not getting tattooed. I don't like the idea of tattooists who aren't heavily tattooed, because
heavily or
like seriously, you know.
Yeah, but for them it takes time. Yeah, probably. You know,
I don't think you should do things to people that you're not prepared to do to yourself. You know, it's a bit disingenuous.
But are there tattoo artists who aren't tattooed themselves?
Yeah,
Even at all?
Yeah, at all. I met one. I worked at a studio.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, I know. But then it's also fucked up maybe not to be heavily tattooed. If you've only got one sleeve, what are you saying? You must really fucking love tattooing if you've only got one sleeve. You're doing hack work. Even if your work is good, and even if your clients don't mind, you're still, there's, like I say, for me, there's something disingenuous about being a tattooist and not being part of it, you know? And I, you know, the tattooists I get tattooed by, they still get tattooed. Do you know what I mean? Because they want to keep that ball rolling, you know? It's like if you're a musician, but you never listen to anybody else's music.
But this is a different style. I've never seen this before, like layer after layer after layer. Because normally, you know, you see people with like, you know, pictures or you know stuff.
Yeah,
you
I mean,
understand?
it's weird. It's a kind of niche part of tattooing, but it's not tiny. You know, there are if you search online, there are a lot of people who are into adding layers and stuff. But it is a weird corner of tattooing. You know?
Yeah,
it's like if you think of it in terms of like genres of music. You know, it might be like old school tattooing is rock and roll, realistic tattooing is pop music.
What do you say this is?
Industrial grindcore, I'd say. You know, it's that niche, like we're those people. And even within those people, the heavy black work people, there might be subgenres. You know,
are they Icelanders who are there?
Not really.
Not really.
I mean, it's something that I see a lot in the UK, and it's something, I don't know, you kind of see it a lot. Black work, you see a lot in Germany as well. You know, that kind of heavy, abstract black work. But I don't even do that myself. It's a weird thing, but the tattoos that I do are a different genre to the ones I have, which is a bit weird. But
you would do it if people would ask you.
It really needs to be done by machine. You know what I mean? It really, so I have quite a bit of handwork, but I have a lot of machine work as well. And because I came to tattooing late, I started off getting machine work, and by the time I discovered the handwork, I'd love to just have handwork, but I already had quite a lot of tattooing, so I had to keep going with that, you know? I don't think anybody really does that intense, abstract, insane black work in Iceland, but maybe they do. Maybe, I mean, I don't know everybody, and it's quite big now.
It's pretty young here in Iceland.
Yeah,
as we talked about before.
Yeah,
you know,
it is. But that's cool. I mean, it's interesting the way it's kind of, because I've been coming to Iceland for 12 years now.
Yeah, I want to get into that. Why are you coming to Iceland?
Well, specifically when I started, my first job in London, because I did it from home for a long time, which is frowned upon and everything, but that you couldn't get a job in a studio doing handwork because people didn't think it was financially viable. I mean, seriously, it was like, you've got to do machine work. This is nearly 20 years
because
ago.
people want to get more for the money, or
No, it just didn't seem like there was a demand for it. Like people didn't know what it was. Like I said, when I discovered it, I'd never heard of it. And I'd say to people, that was done by hand. What do you mean? It was just done with a needle on a stick. What? People were like, what? Just that little thing. And it wasn't considered financially viable. And I was playing in my band and I was having a good time. And I was playing in a punk band. And I thought it was very punk to, hand poke some tattoos. But I got quite good at it. And then eventually I landed a job in a studio in London.
Okay.
And it was financially viable. I got clients and it was people were tattooing had reached that point where it was interesting. Now at that time, there was like 3 other hand pokers in the UK. And I was the only one in London. There was a couple of guys in Brighton and a guy in Newcastle. And that was it. Other than machine artists who did it as a sideline. And as far as I know, I was the first exclusively hand poke tattooist in London, maybe since the 1800s or something. So it was that niche, it was that marginalized, and it's exploded, and they're everywhere now. But so what were we talking about?
Iceland.
Iceland.
Iceland. Thank you. I worked in London for a couple of years, and it was okay. The studio was a bit dramatic and a bit. And a friend of mine got me a guest spot in Oslo, and I went to Oslo, and everybody was really. It's a studio called Lucky 7. Everybody was really friendly. I had a great time. I earned great money because it was Norway. You earn more there than you do in the UK. And I got back to London. I thought, I'm doing this. I can, because I'd always been in bands and stuff. So I can go on tour. I can see the world on the back of a chopstick. That's brilliant. So I messaged a few friends that I'd made in the industry. Messaged my friend Colin in Copenhagen. I said, look, I want to work in more Nordic countries for 2 very simple reasons. The money is fantastic, right? And everybody speaks English. People think you must be into the cool Scandinavian culture. I find it interesting, but I'm into a lot of different cultures. Now, I'm into Greek culture. You ain't going to earn much money there. And, not everybody speaks English. So I thought, I aim for Nordic countries. And that's my friend Colin in Copenhagen, and he put me in touch with Filnia. That's how I ended up in Iceland. But I also ended up in Sweden, in Stockholm.
So you're actually going to all these places?
Yeah. I mean, the
so
list,
you're not only going to Iceland and back.
Well, this has changed, especially post-coronavirus and stuff. So I worked in Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Ireland, UK, Iceland, France, Austria, Germany, Belgium, Spain, Greece, Czech Republic, Israel, America. So I got around, right? But I really liked Iceland, and it was a combination of 2 things. Because I was living in London when I first came here. Reykjavik is like the opposite of London. So it's like a breath of fresh air for me. Literally, actually, when you think about the pollution and the air and everything. So the first time I came here, I really liked it. And I was working at the Icelandic Tattoo Corporation. I was super busy. It was before hand poke was a thing here, and kind of guest artists didn't come here that much either. And the studio just said to me, do you want to come back every 2 months and do a week? And I was like, that sounds good to me. I've made good money. The clients are really nice. I really love Reykjavik. It's like so cool, Like we went down Lurgavega, and the person I was with said, this is like our Oxford Street. And I looked at it and thought, well, that's cool. This is a lot nicer than Oxford Street, I never go to Oxford Street. And so I just started coming every 2 months. As simple as that. Now, it became my regular one above all the others. So I might go to a studio in France or a studio in Denmark once or twice a year, but I was coming here 6 times a year. That built a client base. That built, more of an interest in everything. And
there are clients who are only getting hand poked.
Yeah. And I just liked it. It was just cool. It's just a real nice place to be. And I ended up moving here, and I lived here for 1.5 years.
Okay.
And I left, I guess, about 5 years ago. I'm not very good with time. And I left like 4 or 5 years ago, 5 maybe. And now I've gone back post-COVID to coming over once every 2 months, doing a bit of work. At this point, I would earn more money in the UK, but I come because I want to come. Do you know what I mean? I still turn a profit, but once you've paid for your flights and it's not huge money. But it's great.
So when you finish here, you might go back for some time, and then you would go maybe to what, Denmark?
Well, things are still
pretty
we're still
messed up.
post-COVID, So my next one is in France in May, so I'm not going anywhere next month. I just stay in the UK. I'm going to France the beginning of May, and then I'll come here at the end of May, and then I think I'm going to Stockholm in June, July, and I really want to get back to the States, which obviously I don't go to the States for a week. I go for like 3 weeks or something. So it's just, I'm really just sort of finding my way back into it after COVID and lockdown and I was basically stuck at home for 2 years. You know.
True.
But it's good to be back. I came 3 times to Iceland last year, actually. I did manage to come over towards the end of the year.
Do you work every day when you're here, or do you go the Golden Circle?
Well, the thing is, because
what's your calendar looks like?
Because I lived here for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, those things are great to see again, but I've done a lot. Do you know what I mean? I've been around the West Fjords. I've been around the whole country a couple of times. I've done the Golden Circle more than once. And so I don't really feel the need to do that again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
But they're great to do again at some point, you know. But I'm lucky in the sense that I've seen like a lot of the country, so
awesome.
I don't need to do that. And it's kind of, even though I'm working every day on this trip, it's still got a kind of holiday vibe to it, because it's a different environment, and even just doing something with you guys like this is different to what I would be doing if I was at home. So I'm just going to keep coming over every 2 months, as long as people want to get tattooed by me, which they do. And chilling out, you know. If I came for longer, if I come for 10 days, then maybe I have a day off in the middle, just see friends or hang out or something. It's
cool.
nice.
I'm going to get a tattoo.
Before we go into the BDSM thing, the hooks and...
The hooks is something I'm very, very peripheral to. It's something I've been around, but a long time ago. It's something...
But for us, it's pretty interesting. So if you could maybe describe it a little bit. But before we go there...
Okay.
I want to know, before we exit the tattoo business, you know, do you still enjoy yourself doing tats, of course?
It's a good question.
And do you see yourself, like, as an old man, still on it, like doing tattoos? You know, how do you think you will develop as an artist?
I found that I enjoy it more if I work less, and this is not This is not an uncommon thing.
No.
I also feel it might be a bit of a taboo thing for a tattooist to say, because you're meant to want to do it all the time. It's like,
but how many hours a day?
Exactly. I mean, my first job, I worked 6 days a week, you know, and it's like, I'm not doing that anymore. So when I'm in the UK, I work 2 days a week. It's only when I come, because thankfully the hourly rate is quite good, and I keep my living costs low, and I can 2 or 3 days a week I can live, and then I get 3 or 4 days doing what I want to.
And then you have all this space around.
Your
work.
And it's really nice. That's one of the things I appreciate most about tattooing, is you can make it what you want. You know, you can travel with it. You can be a regular 9-to-5 kids, dog, mortgage guy.
Like many are.
Who treats it as a job. But you can also use it as a gateway to more interesting experiences, to travel and stuff like that, which is what I've tried to do. Probably because I came from playing in bands first. Like I said to you, I can go on tour doing tattoos and that. So now I work part-time. I realised probably during lockdown that I could be semi-retired if I wanted. Do you know what I mean? I could just do that. So 2 or 3 days a week. I make money from my clothing label as well. Not a huge amount, but that's something that's growing, that I'm working on. And when I go abroad, I tend, like here, for example, I tend to work every day. And then that boosts that month's earnings. Do you see what I mean? And I just did, although it's the only one I'm going to do this year, I just did a convention in Brighton. It's like really the first UK convention back after COVID. And that was fantastic. I really liked it. It's the best convention in the UK, I think. But I don't feel like I need to do any more conventions this year. It's like Christmas. I only need one Christmas a year. I only need one convention. It's fantastic.
So you're going to be doing it for the next 20, 30 years?
I doubt it. I'm sure. I think it's quite hard on your health as well. It's quite hard on your back and stuff. You know, crouched over. That's another reason to go part-time. I suppose the simple answer to that is I'll keep doing it as long as I keep enjoying it and maybe have a financial necessity, and as long as people want me to do it. Because the thing is, it's not good to think of it as a job. Think of it as a skill that you exchange for money rather than a job with a kind of salary. That's not the way I see it. So I'll keep doing it as long as.
What about creating a cult?
A cult. I try and avoid creating cults because I think it'd be a very easy thing to do. Because people love to be led, you know.
Mm-hmm. But you can make a lot of money out of it.
Yeah, I know. This is where it's weird.
It would fit you.
Yeah. But that's why I'm scared of it, you know, because it might be too easy. But what was I going to say? I've never been coming from a really like a punk rock background, motivated by money or materialism or possessions. All I ever wanted. I remember years ago, like when I was a small child, you know, unemployment was quite high in the UK in the Thatcher years and stuff. And I said to my mum, these people who don't have jobs, these unemployed people, how do they live?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And my mum said, well, the government is like this big. Mm-hmm. And my mum said, well, the government give them money. And I went, that's what I want to do when I grow up. And she said, it's not a lot of money. And I said, I don't need a lot of money. No, so even back then I was like, I'm not going to get into this rat race, money, materialistic thing. I just want the freedom to do what I want to do. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think I do live quite cheap. Do you know what I mean? And the money I do have often goes on experiences rather than things, so it will go on flights and trips and things like that. I'm quite lucky, you know. I can do that. I can keep my overhead and all that stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, a lot of tattooists most people, I suppose, are money motivated, but they're never satisfied.
Yeah, maybe in the beginning also, you know. Then it like develops.
Yeah, and it came late for me. Do you know what I mean? I did my first tattoo when I was 31.
Yeah.
So I'd already been in the real world, and I'd spent a lot of time unemployed. And I'd been a busker playing music outside a supermarket.
Was it just a natural talent? The tattoo. Well, I mean, it's not a.
Actually, when I started, I should mention this because I think it is relevant. Before I'd even done any tattoos, I started off designing my own tattoos, and I was always into like abstract stuff. You know, I didn't really want to do pictures. I wanted more patterns and shapes and stuff that worked with the body. And I designed my first tattoo when I was 18. Which wasn't really a common thing then. And then I just used to design all my own tattoos, take them into the guy and say, can you do that? And I ended up designing a few for friends as well. So, you know, that was probably my in before even learning how to hand poke and stuff. Okay. So, but I wasn't really interested in drawing for drawing's sake. I mean, I can draw, you know, I can draw all right. But I was more just into tattooing. They're separate things. People say, I could never be a tattooist because I can't draw. It's like, it's a different skill. It's like saying I could never sing because I can't play guitar. It's like they're related, but they're not the same thing. So there's plenty. I mean, back in the day, you didn't have to draw at all because all the designs you purchased Flash from people. That was their job. Flash being the designs, you know, like the old roses and hearts and things. And you didn't have to be able to draw. You just had to be able to do that from the wall. And a lot of tattooists now, they get their designs from the internet, and why not? It's there, it's a resource. So it's a different thing, you know, to working on canvas or paper. Or
what about, is there if we like go into the BDSM, is there a connection between like the tattoo world and BDSM?
There's a loose one. I mean, there is a loose one. It's almost like saying, is there a connection between clothes and BDSM?
Yeah, because it's like related to fashion. I also ask here, what about the style, fashion around it? Is there a certain fashion, or is anything allowed? You know?
Do you mean around BDSM?
Around the BDSM.
Well, it depends on the environment and the context. Like if you were to go to, I don't really like BDSM as well because it's.
You didn't.
No, the term.
The term.
Because I mean, what BDSM means is bondage, discipline, dominance, submission, and sadism and masochism. I prefer the word kink because then that includes fetishism. Like if you've just got a fetish for, say, rubber or leather, how does that fit into BDSM? So I prefer
probably not.
I mean, it could if you want to get.
It could, but not necessarily.
Yeah, you might just get turned on by wearing leather. There might not be any dominance or submission.
Exactly.
So I prefer kink. If you go to a kink event, like a fetish club as they call it or whatever, there will be a dress code, and that's there for a reason to keep people who just want to. You've got to be involved to be involved. But in your own personal life, you could wear whatever you want, you know. But there is a ritualistic element to it. So you want to get dressed. You want to create this. You want to make the space reflect what it is you're going to do and stuff like that. So in BDSM or in kink, like there are certain aesthetics rather than fashions, I suppose. But you know. You could say fashion.
What is your thing? Kink.
It's my thing. Oh, I'm like I'll just do anything because, like, I don't really.
Because I've seen pictures of you dressed as a satanic nun.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah.
And it just so normal.
It's
like, it fits.
Yeah, I just like dressing up and stuff. Do you know what I mean? But I actually, the cross-dressing, when I dress as a nun or a priestess or whatever, it's about creating an image and a mood. And I do that, like, if I'm DJing, I did it at the convention recently, or I do it for photographs and stuff. It's a very boring thing to say, but to be honest, the cross-dressing isn't part of my sex life.
It's not?
No,
Okay.
it's really disappointing.
It's just a marketing stunt, or...
No, I like it. I started doing it before I started, like, taking pictures of it and stuff.
But what you're saying, it's not necessarily, it's not a sexual thing.
You're working, I think when you're in a club, right?
Yeah.
Everybody in the club, like a fetish club, where there's actual sex and there's actual BDSM happening, people are fucking, that's how these clubs work, right? Everybody has to make the effort to create this kind of festival, otherworldly atmosphere. And if I go to a club cross-dressing, then I'm adding to the general ambience of that club. You know what I mean? I'm adding to the otherworldliness of it.
But you wouldn't necessarily be fucking somewhere or doing...
No, I mean, I have done stuff in clubs. I tend to just do whatever I feel. Do you know what I mean? And I also, and this addresses one of the questions that you mentioned, I'll also... change what I'm into. I'm a very much like a
it develops.
Person. Yeah, so it might be like, I'm gonna have a go at that, and then I'll do that.
How did it start?
A BDSM.
Yeah,
or the kink.
This kink or what?
I think for a lot of people, it starts during adolescence when you're having your first sexual awakenings, right? So you realize that you like things that aren't talked about, that probably are talked about a bit more.
Like 99% of people probably do. But don't talk about it.
Yeah. So you might get into like a bit of pain. You know, maybe you like pain. You know, you explore that. You might get into other things. You might find out that you like the idea of restraint or dominance or something like that, and you go down that route. And
you explore it.
For myself, I love being like around it because I'm like interested. Like I'm a people watcher. So recently I went to a CP night,
Which is
private corporal punishment. Corporal punishment, you know, like flogging, like whipping and stuff. It was a very like small event.
To watch it.
Yeah, and I just went, well, my partner's a professional dominatrix.
Oh.
So she went to work it. And I just went for fun, you know. I was like,
professional dominatrix. Is that she goes to events or gives private lessons, or how does it work?
It's not really,
if you're professional, you know.
Right. Okay, this is a huge, so this could be a podcast of its own. Professional dominatrixes will offer a variety of different services. Right? Some of them will work only online. It doesn't have to be face to face. It can be cam.
But it can be like some like home service.
Yeah. Usually not. Well, in my experience, not homes. That's where the commercial dungeons come in. Okay, so in London and a lot of big cities, you have commercial dungeons. That will be a space where there'll be all, because it's quite a lot of like equipment, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where there'll be all the different things. There'll be
You need
like
space.
various things to attach people to, various like equipment, whips and paddles and floggers, and people will rent that space by the hour. Now, a lot of pro doms will use a space. It's not their space. They'll be contacted by a client. I'm into this. I want to do an hour's foot worship, for example, right? So the dominatrix will book a space. I've booked you in here. Can you do then? Yes, I can do then. Pay a deposit. 2:00 on Wednesday afternoon. They come round. They do an hour of foot worship. And the space is a separate business. The person who owns the space, that's their business. The dominatrix. It would be like, almost like a tattooist pays a percentage to the studio. You know?
But what is a foot worship?
Well, the guy will come in and worship the dominatrix's feet. That's his thing.
But
that's his king.
Do these events...
so that she'll put a foot in his face, maybe trampling. That's popular. He lies on the floor. They walk on him.
And
Yeah,
this,
well, that's a separate thing, generally called ball
we
busting.
just learned that because we are
yeah.
heavily into CPT. We learned about...
Not CBT.
Yeah, that's what we learned. And then a nice man told us about CBT. It's very interesting.
And that's
fucking bold.
yeah, but the guy who has you know, her feet
Yeah.
in his face for an hour or
Yeah.
whatever, and he's worshipping the feet and the toes and everything. It sexually stimulates him.
Yeah, definitely.
But does the session end with like a release or something?
it might. I mean, it
Yeah.
depends on the
Accidental release or in purpose?
I mean, an accidental release in that situation would probably be better, wouldn't it? Because that means you've reached the height of without, you know.
job well done.
But it is sex work. Obviously, it's not what we call full sex work, which would be what you think of as escorts or you know, traditional prostitution is full sex work. Most DOMs don't offer full sex work. They want to have sex with the clients. Some, of course, will because there's a whole, you know, plethora of different kind of professional dominatrixes. Some of them are really into CP, so they'll be really into whipping and flogging. Some of them are into humiliation. You know, it's femdom, so it's female domination. So you can use your imagination to think, well, how many different flavors of femdom would there be? Loads. Some of them just want to be kicked in the balls, like you said. Some of them might want to do things with needles or various kinds of restraints. You know, all sorts. There's a lot.
Do we have many professional dominatrixes in Iceland?
I don't think, although somebody might correct me, I don't think you have any full-time
So
professional
there's a gap in the market.
It's a small market, though. It's not tattooing. Do you know what I mean? I mean, if you want a session, what I would say, and like I said, one of my Icelandic friends has done this, is go where it is. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's worth getting on a plane and going to London and booking and having a weekend of it. You know,
we are few, but we are quite many, and we're getting bigger. So
yeah. I mean, it could be, but there was. I've been told, and this could be somebody you know. Somebody did try opening a commercial dungeon here in Iceland, and it didn't work. Like there wasn't enough demand for it, and they ended up selling all the equipment.
Because now we have like 2 million, you know, tourists a year coming to Iceland. You know.
But I don't know how with the regulation and stuff.
That's the other thing.
That's quite difficult.
I don't know what. Like if you go to a club in Berlin or London, a kink club, a fetish club, there's stuff going on. I don't know if you could do that here.
I think
legally. I don't know what the
you
situation
could make it
is.
work. I've thought about this a lot actually to have like a sex club or something. But it's on such a grey area regarding the law and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm quite worried that it might just get shut down immediately. Or something.
I mean, anybody who's
even though there's no prostitution or what going on, you know.
Anybody who's into that kind of thing, really, it's you can read about it. There are a lot of good books, but there are more bad books. Like anything like this, there are more bad books than good books, obviously. But you have to get involved. I mean, the best way to find out more about sex clubs is to go to like Berlin or Amsterdam or London and.
But we have like munches and stuff here in Iceland.
Munches? What's munches?
Munch. It's called munch.
Like the Scream.
Meeting
No,
lunch.
no, haven't you heard about munch? I think it's called munch. It's like a meeting where people meet to chat and go on. It's like a Bdsm thing here in Iceland.
Yeah,
it's called a munch.
I mean,
munch.
he spoke about the bunkers.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
There's definitely
there's some scene going
It's
on.
definitely happening in Iceland because it's happening everywhere. It's happening all over.
We've had so many people like Bdsm and open relationships and tantra and everything. So I've been researching a lot on that.
Yeah.
So and it's bigger than you think.
I'm sure
what you have going on, you know.
Yeah, but it's when you get to the commercial kind of industrial side.
Yeah, I know.
That it gets professional. It gets interesting.
It's hard to make it like a bonus, like a franchise or something.
Yeah. I mean, it would be
a dungeon in Akureyri.
It would be interesting.
A Viking dungeon.
A Viking dungeon.
Oh, God. Yeah, I mean,
but I've seen in media and social media now the recent months, maybe last 6 months. There's a lot of like uprising in ropes and bondage
and stuff.
or whatever.
Yeah,
like
rope. Yes.
like into this. It's like almost like this Japanese art form stuff. And I've seen videos of it. It's pretty beautiful. It's really nice to watch.
Yeah, my friend here is into it. So I think that is a thing that's.
Like that's not only sexual, it's also just like
it might be
like an art.
I mean, the sexual thing is kind of interesting because, like, when I went to the CP night, the corporal punishment night, the people took a serious beating, but there was no sex, there was no sexual release. It was purely beating, and I mean to the point where like people were bleeding. It was hardcore. Like
here in Iceland.
No, this was back in England.
Okay,
but it was in the middle of nowhere. It was kind of weird, and yeah, and people were just taking a hammer in, and there was blood on the floor, and like it was quite brutal. But the release wasn't like a an orgasm release,
Mhm.
but we'd be more like an endorphin release.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? And it's kind of
Does it
almost,
have to be this severe?
no, of course.
I would rather just stay home and watch
because
Rocky or
but-
something.
because these
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because these ropes, this art form, it's more softer. It's
Yeah.
really it looks
Elegant,
really
smooth.
gentle and slow and
Yeah, and it looks kind of artistic, which it is. But then with anything kink based, you go as far as you want to go.
Yeah.
Like cock and ball torture, CBT,
CBD.
that can be a few needles through the scrotum, which is pretty mild, or it can be like
Proper
fucking
kicking.
It can be like a bunch of skewers through the end of the
Jesus
the old chap,
Christ.
you know?
But how? Okay, regarding like cock and ball torture.
Yeah.
When you think about it, this must be something done by a professional.
Oh God, no.
Because obviously you have a sack of balls and you've been kicked accidentally and so
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
You
yeah.
can so easily, and also when they're like binding it, you know, and making it all blue
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff.
you have done your research.
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely. But I like my balls a lot, you know.
Yeah.
And I would rather they not die and stuff like
But
that.
then you don't
How-
have the-
No, I'm not gonna do it. I'm just thinking, you know, like normal people doing this kinds of stuff. It must be extremely dangerous,
Oh, God,
especially
yeah.
when you think about your balls.
Yeah.
The testicles, they're so
people get
sensitive.
injured. I mean, don't get it wrong. People get injured. People
Yeah.
deliberately get injured. Do you know what I mean? Like, but you're talking about the hard end of it. You know, maybe you just.
You know they can die, you know, if you take away the blood flow
Oh,
for long
yeah,
enough.
Yeah.
Just
Maybe you
kaput.
just need to have them grabbed and spanked gently
No,
But-
I-
but-
before you go to bed.
with
gently.
with the ropes. I've
Yeah.
seen people hanging from ceilings,
Yes.
Yeah.
and it's people are just like, you
Yeah,
know,
it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
like this, you know. But
Yeah.
you know, we were pointed to your direction
Mm.
by a woman who I know, and she spoke about hooks.
The weird thing about that is, like, say, no disrespect.
I
can't
didn't get
remember.
any details how
I've-
much you were involved,
I've
but
only
then
been
people are
really-
also hanging.
Yeah, but they do it from hooks, right?
What does it mean? How does it work?
Well, again, I'd say like with the CP, I think it's more an endorphin thing, right?
CP.
The corporal punishment. It's more
Yeah.
of an
Yeah.
endorphin thing. And suspensions, which is what you call the hook hanging that you're
Mhm.
talking about, they're not really a part of kink. Like they have big suspension events. There's a big one in Oslo called Suscon, and people go and they get hooks through their back,
Through the skin,
knees,
right.
Yeah, like really quite
Like
deep.
many small hooks, or even
It can
like
be as single as one. It can just be one hook.
Is it
or-
just the skin or under the muscle or where does it
it's
go?
the skin, but it goes deep. Do you know what I mean? So usually the common one would be like maybe a few in the back or the shoulders, and they're
lifted
hoisted up, and they have like a euphoric, more of a kind of spiritual experience than a
awakening
sexual
or
one.
something, yeah.
Like, there was a suspension at the last kink night I went to just last month in London, and it does create a different energy in the room. But the guy who was doing it was not involved in any sexual activity.
No.
He was basically just hung up for a bit in the middle of the dance floor in a cage. It looks awesome. It's very Hellraiser.
But you're like you have to like breathe and get into
Yeah,
it
yeah.
and like it's probably similar like they do in the Philippines where they hang you up
Yeah.
on the cross.
Or where they put the skewers through
Yeah,
the
and it
face and
just-
stuff. Yeah. It is that. You know, it
Okay.
is that kind of like...
no, you mean the Christian? You know, they're just
Hey.
getting crucified.
Yeah, they
basically.
do that in the
You know.
Philippines as well. But it's a similar kind of thing, yeah. But
Mhm.
that's not necessarily related to kink and sex.
No, I know.
You what
I
mean?
just it's more
But
of a
it-
spiritual awakening.
Yeah. But it is body play. If you're going to go for like a
Mhm.
broader categorization, all your BDSM stuff
Mhm.
and all your body modification, your tattooing and your suspensions and your skewers,
Mhm.
it's all body play. It's all working with the body to get like some kind of effect.
Have you
know?
done it?
Suspension?
Yeah.
No. And that's why I don't really like talking about it because I'm
No.
not an authority. I've assisted at a couple, but I'm not a piercer, so I didn't even do the needles. All I did was the winch. This is quite good.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Have you had
winched-
it done on yourself?
No. I winched
But-
like a guy up to the seat. It was
but-
a nightclub, and I winched him up and then swung him over the audience. It was pretty cool, friend of mine. And that
Nice.
was years ago. I've not been around it much.
But
since.
these hooks, do you like when the hook penetrates? Do you do a cutting before?
No, the hook is like razor sharp. I mean, it'll be thick.
So you actually penetrate only
the
with the hook.
Yes, but it will be like at its thickest point, I guess they're usually about 6 to 8 mil. They're pretty good because they've got to support the body, right? But they're super sharp,
And the
it's
skin is really strong too.
The
like,
thing about skin is, you're absolutely right. It's really impossible to rip, right? But
Mhm.
it cuts you can cut it with paper, but tearing it is another thing. So once the hooks are in, people might think, oh, maybe the hooks are going to pop out. No
Mhm.
way, that never happens. You'd have to go really shallow, you know what I mean? So that's something I've been around really at the periphery of. I've seen it, I've been up close to it and stuff like that, but it's not my thing. Tattooing is enough for me, you know, so I appreciate it. It's good.
But are things like these done here in Iceland, you think?
Yeah, I know for a fact, because the guy who did my brand,
Yeah.
a guy called Quentin, who's in Worthing.
No, this is brand work.
Yeah, that's burnt in with an electrocautery pen.
Ah.
So it's not as bad as it sounds, and it's cool.
Because you also been doing it with like heating metal and just like...
Yeah, but that's brutal, and you can't get no like.
You have no
definition.
control.
Yeah, and I wouldn't do that. I actually have 4 of these done by a they call it like a diathermic cautery pen, I think is the tool. And it's not that bad. It wasn't that bad. It's no worse than a tattoo. The healing is a bit worse. But the guy who did that used to come like 10 years ago to Iceland and suspend people. So people have been suspended in Iceland with hooks like over 10 years ago.
Okay.
But it would be very much more of an underground kind of thing. And there wasn't that much interest. I think he suspended a couple of people, and then that was it. That was all the people in Iceland that wanted to be suspended. So,
all 4 of them.
But so it has happened here. And, you know, it could happen again.
I would know it's right.
No.
Yeah, people
Another
do. I
thing-
wouldn't either. I'm too old. I had the opportunity to do it. I was in my 30s. I was like, nah.
Isn't it easier maybe on like a 78-year-old person who's been on Tenerife a lot, who has like leather skin?
Well, then you have to like hang them up even higher.
Yeah, because they're always going to be on the
Yeah,
ground.
they're just going to be on the floor, aren't they?
What about, it's not on the script, but I was thinking maybe a little bit, you know, connected to this. What about, you know, because you spoke about branding. What about like when people are doing implantation, splitting tongues, cutting off your ears and removing fingers and stuff like this?
I mean, the thing is, when you're into anything like I'm into, for example, tattooing and that, you have to. I really think people have to let people be themselves.
Yeah.
So if people want to chop a finger off, or I've assisted at a tongue split. Actually, that's pretty hardcore. Like
You've seen it?
No, I've assisted. So my friend was doing the actual split, and I was holding like the clamps, and he was splitting. It's not as, when you're doing it, it's not as brutal as if you watch it on video. It's just what's happening. But if people want to like tattoo their eyeballs and split their tongues and, you know, chop their dicks off or whatever, good luck to them. You know what I mean? That's their body. Because the thing that it's all
people
about.
are doing it.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing it's about, this is where it crosses over with the kink scene again, is bodily autonomy. Who owns your body? Who decides what you can and can't do?
Exactly.
If you want to chop your finger off, chop your finger off. I'm not going to chop my fingers off. I play guitar.
But have you heard about this? People are actually doing it.
Oh, yeah.
But they've been doing it forever as well. It's only the internet which enables this kind of information to spread. You know, people have been doing this always, you know. So people should be free to do what they want with their body, which takes it into the realm of like sexual politics and, you know, a lot of other things. That's the big, I talked about body play. The big umbrella is bodily autonomy. Who owns your body? Who decides who you are in the world? It's got to be you, right?
You're allowed to.
Yeah. If you want to be castrated, have at it.
Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
All right. A little bit more here. I want to know if the BDSM or the kink, is it like a spiritual journey for you?
Well, not for me, because I don't like the term spiritual, because it's
Why not?
Well, I prefer to define a world in like, there's 3 different views. Spiritual is kind of, that's religious. Christians are spiritual, right? So I prefer magic, right? I'd say spiritual belongs more to the transcendental, which would be religion, be it like Christianity, Islam, Buddhism. It's a transcendental worldview where the whole purpose of your life is to transcend the material, right? Then you've got the material viewpoint, which would be the atheistic, rational, scientific view of the world. And then over here, we have the magical viewpoint, which is not religion and it's not materialistic. It's more about working with this to get what you want rather than transcending it or thinking it's all there is. So it's definitely a kind of magical process. When you think about magic as something that affects changes in consciousness and stuff, then of course, BDSM, body all the body play we've been talking about, the hook hanging, you're doing it to create a change in your consciousness.
It's always moving you somewhere.
Yeah, and it may, you know, if you're gonna believe in magic and stuff, it may send you on a slightly different trajectory. You know, so I think it's a magical
Due to experience.
Yeah, I think it's a magic with a K, not like stage magic, but it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you want it to be. Some people who are into it are purely materialistic. Some of them are probably transcendental. Some religious groups do all sorts of like physical mortifications. You know. So,
but what about religion? Because there's something about satanic stuff here. Satanal.
That's my clothing label.
That's your clothing label. But are you satanic?
Oh, ask a Christian.
Ask a Christian.
Of course I am.
You are satanic.
Well, it depends what you understand by Satanism. And again,
I don't understand anything of it.
Okay, the kind of Satanism that I like, although I'm not a member of it, would be something like the Levian Church of Satan, which started in the 1960s, which is an atheistic, magical, satanic system. I'm not a member of the Church of Satan because I won't join a hierarchical group. I'm not fucking having no grand magus over me. Also, I disagree with a few of their views, but I really liked his writings about individuality and, again, autonomy, bodily autonomy. You decide when you get into any kind of body play, right?
So it has to do with boundaries, right? Really.
Yeah, you decide what boundaries you want to push, and you decide who you are. You're not told by a political or especially a religious organization who you are, who you should be sexually, who you should be physically, and that's satanic. To the Christians and the Muslims and the Jews and whoever else, that's satanic. Say, no, I reject your God. I am my own God. I'll decide what this experience is, not your system. So, you're going to be satanic in their eyes. So you may as well just embrace it and say, yeah, I'm a Satanist. This is what I do. It's pretty simple. But there are lots of different satanic organizations like this. The Satanic Temple is another well-known one. And there are odds with the Church of Satan, just like the Catholics and the Protestants.
This definition might put us, as satanic as well.
Well, what you should do, I'd recommend this to anybody out in podcast land. Look to camera. Buy the Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey. It's really cheap. You can get it, read it, and you'll know if you're a Satanist or not. It was written in the 1960s, so it's not the most modern thing you'll read. But that is for Satanism.
But it hasn't anything to do with being evil and crossing other people's boundaries
that's what religion
and doing
does.
violence.
The amusing sort of head game you've got going on is the religion. The good guys
are actually doing that.
Are the evil guys, right? And the evil
not respecting boundaries. And
of course not. I mean, look at let's just take everybody's favorite, Catholicism. Look what they've got up to. And they say they're the good guys.
Jesus.
I mean, come on. Yeah, Jesus, exactly.
Oh, my God.
From the Crusades to the Inquisition to like the fucking abuse, they're the bad guys.
I'm satanic.
Absolutely.
I just found out.
But guys, I'm going through a lot of cock and ball torture. I really have to go to pee.
Really?
Right.
Can we take a short break now?
Yeah.
Because I'm really interested in the satanic stuff.
Okay, we
pause, you go.
Fuck. Yeah.
What about the...
Are we back on?
We're back on.
Cool.
Welcome, Buff. What about the clothing label? We're getting to the end. I want to know a little bit more about the clothing label you have. It's called Satanal.
It is called Satanal.
Satanal.
It wasn't initially. I went through a few names. The way that came about, it was just during lockdown, right? And I learned through tattooing how to use Photoshop. And I just had an idea literally for a badge, right? And I did this little satanic butt plug badge. Okay, I think it's on the business card.
Can I see?
Tattoo.
The other one, though.
Close.
Is it
Queer satanic bitchcraft.
Yeah, the little butt plug there in a minute. And I just came up with this little logo that was a butt plug with an inverted cross, which is your classic.
It's awesome.
Satanic thing.
Why butt plug?
Sorry?
Why butt plug?
Because it's really for that. Well, because
I love butt plugs. I've never used them, but there's something about the butt plugs.
There is.
I even have one. Can I show it to you?
Yeah, brilliant. Wow.
It was a friend of mine who made me one for Christmas. This is homemade.
Heavily used.
I've never used it.
Well, it's a good starting size, I suppose.
And I'm not going to give it to you because I hope someday I'm developed enough to actually use it.
It's a bit rough, so I'd use a good quality silicone.
I'm from Iceland.
With that,
And if you start there, you don't know the difference, so you just think this is the thing.
This is a good starting size.
You think?
I've never had yours, and I've spoken to this about my wife, and she we're into all kinds of stuff, but she's never really got the butt plug thing. What
Then-
does it give you?
The thing is, right, with anything sexual,
Do you use them?
I've used them a lot. For anything like sexual, you know yourself if you're into it.
Yeah.
You don't need. Maybe sometimes you have to try something, but you know yourself if you want to try it. And it's the same with tattooing. It's the same with body modification. Sometimes people will say to me, "Oh, I've thought about getting a tattoo, but I don't know what I'd get," and blah blah blah. And you're like, "Well, it's probably just not for you." You know, the difference between the kind of thing that I'm talking about, and we're going to go into kind of the satanic thing versus the religious thing, is it's up to you. The problem with religious people is they want everybody to think like them. The point about kind of satanic people
You're
is
allowed
you
to.
do what you want.
You're
If you
allowed
want to
to.
do butt plugs, do butt plugs. If you never want anything going up your bottom apart from nothing, you know, I suppose, a thermometer if you will.
I use CBD in my butt.
I've never done that. So you see, you're more adventurous than me.
You're more satanic than
Yeah, it
me.
goes
Yeah,
in,
yeah.
just disappears.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, you can put all manner of drugs up your bottom.
Yeah.
But the point is, you do what you want to do, right? As long as the obvious caveat that I would say, as long as it's between consenting adults, everything is fine, you know? So if your wife doesn't feel the butt plug, then don't
Yeah.
do the butt plug.
No,
you
I'm
know?
not pressuring anyone to use the
You
butt
know?
plug.
But would you use the butt plug, David?
I mean, not that one, maybe.
No.
You know, how I see it, it's something you put up in the morning without telling anyone, and you go to work.
Do you know what? That
I don't
is a-
feel
that
any
is a
urge.
thing, but that's not that common a thing, right?
No.
Like, it's not
You just
Isn't it
keep
just
it-
like a more
you just wear it the
pornographic
whole
thing,
day.
The butt plug thing.
more for porn.
No, not more for porn, but isn't it just more
Like a prop.
visible in the porn industry? So we think it's more common among ourselves. You know what I mean?
No, I'm not sure.
I'm not doubting that people enjoy it and use it.
Because
But
I think it was a pretty big thing before the porn industry took
Probably.
off, you know.
is this you?
No, that's from
It's a super cool
Hammer
guy.
horror film called The Devil Rides Out. I just really like the image, so I used it for my business
It's
card.
awesome.
But yeah, like anything, if you want to try it, try it. But if you don't. That's the whole point, you know.
But with this
Celibacy is
one, with
great
this
if
one,
you're into it.
wouldn't it be a little bit too big for a beginner?
No,
Really?
no, because you do turds bigger than that.
Yeah, you know how
Yeah.
know how much it can stretch without like breaking.
Yeah, but
A lot.
don't you need to like lubricate it really much?
I would always lubricate everything. You
Mhm.
know, lube is God.
Mhm.
But that's not too big for a beginner.
Okay.
You know, and then you can buy kits that go up incrementally.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Find your
I
limit.
had a business idea actually. It was because I've thought about butt plugs a lot,
Yeah.
and the thing is, it's to make like a
Interesting.
silicone form
Mm-hmm.
with like butt plugs, and you can make like frozen butt plugs,
Yeah.
and you do like 10 of them, but in one of them there's like a habanero chili pepper.
Okay.
It's like a Russian roulette
yeah.
of butt plugs.
Well, you should definitely try that. Film
put it in ice.
Do a blog. You
It
know.
melts,
Film your
and then
reaction.
one is the lucky one.
Well, what you need to do is you need to get 9 of your friends. You got 2 here, so it's 7 more.
Yeah.
Make
Mhm.
the 10 ice butt plugs with habanero inside them.
Would it work?
And would it work?
Yeah, with ice.
Find out. I mean, that's the
Find
boundary thing, right? You know?
I'm allowed to.
I look forward to hearing the results of your experiment.
Okay, because I've also been thinking about the CBD industry to do like a butt plug with frozen CBD.
But one thing you have to remember is, and I'm not speaking from experience, but I'm pretty sure that frozen things up your arse
It's probably
are not
very,
the one.
very painful.
You know, that's a serious bit of sensation going on.
But I'm
You'd be
allowed to
better
try.
off making it out of gelatin, which would melt at body temperature.
Ah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the plan is good.
Uh-huh.
Get your friends,
Uh-huh.
get your
Yeah, I
get your
just have to
habanero,
adjust it a little.
and
Okay.
do it.
All right.
Awesome. Yeah.
All right, Buff.
Ooh.
We're
Butt plugs.
Broken.
there are butt plugs everywhere.
Yeah, it's raining butt plugs. Hallelujah.
All right, but are you? Before we go to the final words, are you putting like a big bet on this clothing label?
Oh, I never put big bets on anything.
No.
I'm just. I think the best way to do things for fun,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And if it works, it works. I started out genuinely tattooing
Mhm.
for fun, and it became my job. The clothing label, it's going all right. I understand it has a limited appeal, but people seem to like it. I've got a bunch of new designs for T-shirts that I'm going to be working on. I've got them ready to go. I actually tried to order them, but I couldn't order them from Iceland. You know, whatever. So when I get back to England, I'll be ordering a few more T-shirt designs, a few more badges, and just growing it like that. I mean, the last convention we did, the one we did in Brighton, we sold loads of merch at that. People really liked it. And then, you know, in London, there's a satanic flea market that I'm going to, hopefully, when I've got more stock, I'll do that. There are various alternative lifestyle markets that happen. So I can, when I've got enough stock, because at the minute I've got 3 T-shirts, 2 badges and a pack of stickers and some mugs. It's quite good, but it's not enough to fill a stall.
No.
You know? But it will be. And when it is, I'll start selling stuff more in person. And yeah, I'm into it. It's my little pet project that I started in lockdown, and now I'm just growing it and stuff. So it's
Sounds
cool.
good.
And I hope to get it in shops. I've approached some shops, some queer shops in the UK, and they've expressed an interest. And there's one in Berlin I want to approach, and then get them in physical shops, and just because everything starts small, right?
What is a queer
Butt
shop?
plugs, whatever.
Yeah. If you want us to
Queer
promote
shop.
your brand, you just give us some T-shirt when you come next time.
I should.
We
You know
will
what?
wear it here.
I thought of that afterwards.
Yeah.
You know,
Next time.
after I'd left the country, I was
When you-
like,
when
I
you
should
come
bought
next
you some
time,
T-shirts.
do it.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Do you have, Buff, any final words before we go to sponsors?
I mean, I think we've kind of covered
We've gone
everything.
through
I mean,
it.
I would just say, the last thing I'd say is, if you have an interest in Satanism, start with the Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey, released in the 60s. That's a good starting point for that. It's not the only version, and then you can find your own way after that, maybe. But like I said, there's a lot of crap written about these subjects. And if you're into the BDSM thing, I would recommend SM 101, I think by Jay Wiseman is the author's name. That's a good one. It talks a lot about consent and safety and boundaries, which are all the first base you've got to cover in this kind of thing. Came out in the late 90s, I think. So the Satanic Bible for that. SM 101 for that. If you want to get tattooed by me in Iceland, I'm over here every couple of months for a week. I work at Dul in Garðabæ.
Where is it in Garðabæ? Is it
It's
in
in
the
that
new
kind of shopping
the
centre.
new
bit.
shopping centre?
Do you know
bit?
where Domino's is?
Yeah.
In the car park, right. So if you're facing Domino's, if you went left, it's in there where there's like a yoga place.
I've seen
and
it
stuff.
there. Yeah.
Super nice.
You know the richest people in Iceland, they live in Garðabæ.
Yeah, of course.
Are you tattooing like the Prime Minister and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, on a daily basis.
On a daily basis, yeah.
I'm inserting his butt plug after this. But,
On his dick.
Yeah.
Corrupt.
But yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm here you get tattooed by me, pay me a visit. I'm here every couple of months. That's about it, really, I suppose.
Very nice.
Simple man.
What more can I say?
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna give you. You're gonna have some gifts before you leave. We're gonna
Awesome.
do some Icelandic words now.
Cool.
From
You're not
our
gonna make me
sponsors.
eat shark or anything, are you?
No, just
Yeah,
just
that's
relax.
okay.
Do you want some
That
CBD?
perverse. No, I don't know. I never tried it. I feel fine. So
All right.
Dun, dun.
Tilbúin Davíð.
Já, ég er tilbúin.
Ok. Herru, við erum komin með nýjan samstags aðila.
Þannig.
Já, þetta er á frumstígi, en við erum að drekka hérna í Þvottahúsinu kombucha, sem er hollt og gott. Þetta er eins konar te, unnið úr alls konar berjum og engifer og svona drasli. Þetta er einstaklega gott fyrir meltinguna og mér finnst
Gott líka.
Já, þetta er geðvikslega gott á bragðið, mér finnst ég líka bara, mér finnst ég slaka svo vel á.
Þetta er bland við CBD maður, það er bara...
Já, ég held að þetta sé mögulega kannski eitthvað að gerjast, þannig að það er kannski eitthvað svona 0,5% alkohól sem bara eitthvað smýgur inn í hverju einustu frumu og ég er bara alveg rólegur af þessu. En þetta er semst á frumstígi, kombucha Iceland.
Já, meira síðar.
Meira síðar, heyrðu, svo er það hérna, veggkorkurinn, þetta er Þvottahús, við erum hérna með Hawaiian Black Oyster, þetta er algjör snild, þetta er ekki bara gott fyrir hljóð, akústík, þetta er líka einfalt að smetla upp með kontaktlími. Ég gerði þetta bara með sólgleru og í myrkri, sko, þetta var ekkert mál. Hljóðistinn, hún er mjög góð eftir ég fekk henni kork upp og hún bættist ofan á þessar hljóðplötu sem eru með hérna í loftinu hérna sem eru náttúrulega bara algjör snild, bara dráp í stúdíóið. Þetta fáið allt í Þvottahús í Ármála 29.
Það sem draumarnir rætast.
Það tekur Daniel á með okkur, gefur ykkur kaffi og spjallar við ykkur. Hann er með kink eða fettis fyrir kork.
Heldur beður.
Það
má allt.
Það má allt. Já, allt svona varandi stúdíó, hljómleikasali, Bdsm, dýblisur. Þá er þetta nota. We're talking about the sound insulation and the acoustic, which might be good for the BDSM dungeons.
Yeah.
You know,
You need good soundproofing in a commercial dungeon. For sure.
Exactly. Daniel tekur móttöku. Hann þriðja kynslóð. Hann veit allt sem hægt að vita hljóðvist. Hann einfaldlega brennur fyrir þetta drasl. Þvottahúsið ármáli 29 í mörg miljón ár. Og svo gott CBD í Urriðaholtsstræti 16 eða í vefverslun. Sama upp á teningnum með CBD. Því meira sem framleitt á CBD því umhverfisvænar framleiðslan.
Þetta ekki nýja.
Nei, hún hana. Hún geggjuð þessi sko. Hampurum bindur 5 sinnum meira kolefnum en hefðbundin tré. Á nokkrum mánuðum nær plantan þó eftir yrki upp undir 4 metra í hæð. Meira þess að á Íslandi síðasta sumar fóru plöntur sem voru ræktaðar utandira á mörgum stöðum. Ég sá þetta sjálfur upp í 3 metra utandira. Sjálfbærnisfaktorinn sem CBD hefur á taugakerfið gríðarlegur. Ég hef að þeim 3 árum sem ég tekið CBD í öllu mögulegu formi gjörbreyst til hins betra.
Algjörlega.
Ég heyri sögur af fólki sem með kvíða, svefntruflanir, taugaverki, óveið, húðvandamál, gikt, flog, krampa, endurheimtar, vesen, bólgur og geti haldið lengi áfram. Ég heyri af þessu fólki, þau ringja og skrifa mér og þeim batnað þökk sé fæðibótar efninu CBD. Ég ráðlegg þeim sem fara inn á gottcbd.is eða róla upp í búð upp í Urriðaholtsstræti að kaupa þar gæða CBD, gott CBD. Þeirra vörur frá heildrænni framleiðslu og eitthvað sem ég get sett nafn mitt við. Bím bara búm.
Wow.
Og afsláttarkóðin Þvottahúsið. Vá.
Já.
Herðu, það var þetta.
Já, ég svona með þetta.
Herðu, og Boff, we're gonna
send you out
with presents.
Awesome.
I don't know if you understood any of it, but this is cork.
Yes.
Cork,
It's not dork.
the more you produce of cork, the more negative the carbon footprint is, actually.
Okay.
Which is good. This is for opening up the bottles from Hemp Living.
Dun dun.
Oh, a bottle opener.
This is hand cream.
Oh, I always need hand cream.
Yeah.
The best one.
Normally you would be able to like choose between these two, but we're going to give you both of them. This is
Awesome.
This is for, it's called acne cream.
Acne cream.
Yeah, I don't need that.
No, but do you know anyone who does?
I'll take it anyway.
Just give it.
But
give it if you know a teenager with skin problems.
Okay.
Do it.
The hand cream is the best in the world.
Yes.
But what size is it?
What
do you
size is it?
Because I bought hand luggage.
It's not a butt plug.
I can only take... Well, anything's a butt plug if you're brave enough. What volume? Just because I only have hand luggage on the plane and I don't want to be able to take it back. This is all right because it's 100 mils. Maybe... I can't actually see it. Oh, it's 75. Oh, that's cool. I can take that.
Awesome.
Boff, thank you so much for
No
coming.
problem.
Our pleasure.
And enjoy Iceland.
I shall. I
And
always do.
we'll probably meet again.
I hope so.
Definitely.
Excellent.
Thank you.
No problem.
Frá náttúrunni til þín. Gott CBD einfaldlega betra.
Korkur í eldhúsið, korkur á baðherbergið, korkur í stofuna. Við elskum kork. Korkur, umhverfisvænn, hipp og kúl. Þvottahúsið stoltur styrktaraðili Þvottahússins.